Did you know that Harry Potter had a trading card game back in the early 2000s? Now you do. Back in 2001 to 2003, Warner Brothers and Wizards of the Coast made the Harry Potter TCG. And yes, it is the exact same Wizards of the Coast that had Pokemon and Magic the Gathering. So you knew it was going to be a good game. I mean, come on. You can't beat the artworks here, right? Like, these are just so good. Come on. Fantastic. All right. Anyway, I'm not going to show off all my cards, I promise. But we are going to talk about three separate things when it comes to the Harry Potter TCG, because I have been sitting here asking myself, how can I get the Harry Potter TCG to come back to life? Right? And it's obviously going to take Warner Brothers to bring it back to life, but it got me to really sit down and think and put some thoughts to paper. And I came up with 3 points I'm going to talk about in today's video. One is why the TCG actually ended in 2003. The second point being why Warner Brothers should bring back the TCG, because that's a big one too. Why should they bring it back? And then 3, if I were Warner Brothers, how would I do it? How would I bring the game back? And those are the 3 points I'm going to outline for you guys today. And I got some good notes here. I got a few pages worth of notes that we're going to go through. So buckle up, get ready, because I've got a good video for you. But before we dive into all of that, I'm not properly dressed for the occasion. So I'm going to have to do something here and change all of this. Yes, that shall do. Let's do the trick and fix this. Much better. And as you can see, I have my Harry Potter Trading Card Game League shirt on. And, since I am Professor Wren, we've got the Professor shirt. Now, as I was saying, I have my points to make here, and I've got some coffee. We're going to dive right into it. All right, so very first topic, why the TCG originally ended. Now, the biggest reason that we know of for sure is that Warner Brothers wanted to focus more on the images from the movie versus the books, which, I mean, from a marketing standpoint, that makes a ton of sense. Let's be real here. However, I think they did a fan service by doing book artwork and doing that style versus doing just straight up, pictures from a film, because that's what Decipher did with the Lord of the Rings sets, and they didn't do so hot either. At least Harry Potter made it further along than Lord of the Rings. But there was one big rumor that was circulating, and we don't know. There's no public truth to any of this. We don't really know. But rumor has it that there was an employee at Wizards of the Coast that was doing some funny business with the money. Basically, embezzling some money from Harry Potter and the franchise and the sets there. And that was a huge reason why they stopped. And again, that's all speculation. We don't actually know. It makes good sense, though, if you really think about it. Again, unproven, but it makes sense. Also, there was internal competition within Wizards of the Coast between Magic, their flagship product, Pokemon, which was the new hot thing on the market, and of course Harry Potter. Now, taking on a third major trading card game, because let's be honest, Harry Potter is a major IP. I would dare say it is up to the same level and standard that the other 2 TCGs were, beyond the TCG realm. But the Wizards of the Coast already had the 2 big name TCGs on the roster, and they didn't want to necessarily take all of the resources and put it into Harry Potter when they were already succeeding with these other 2 games. And we actually learn a little bit later on, a couple of years down the road, that Pokemon would actually separate it and go their own way as well. And, while they say it was, amicable, there's obviously some competition issues there too. And it makes sense. Pokemon had the means to do so. Wizards of the Coast did not, Harry Potter, Warner Brothers did not. So that was a big issue there for Wizards of the Coast. But also the market for trading card games at that time, because again, this is early 2000s, 2001 to 2003, the market for trading card games just wasn't that big. And granted, there were still a ton of Magic players and a ton of Pokemon players, and there were some other games out there too, but the market was minuscule compared to where it is today. And that's a point we're going to get to later on. Supporting that third major TCG, like I said, just split resources, and honestly, Wizards of the Coast wasn't going to keep putting the effort into them if they weren't going to generate the same revenue, which is kind of another point in and of itself. The Harry Potter TCG was not selling as well as Magic and Pokemon. A lot of people take that as a sign of the game was failing, and that's just simply not the case. The game just wasn't as big. And I would argue that Harry Potter at the time was relatively new. I know the books had been out, but a lot of people still didn't know about it. When you get movies and adaptations such as that, plays, and you're getting all the extra stuff, all the merchandise, and that's when that stuff starts flooding the scene. That's when you know the IP is really, truly growing. And that was at the very infancy of the Harry Potter trending stage with Warner Brothers. So honestly, I don't think it wasn't that they just weren't selling well and there was no demand for it. It's just the market was new. The collectability of Harry Potter things was still brand new. So I think they were just a little too early to the game, to be completely frank. The other problem was the game was designed to be a little simpler than Magic to appeal more to kids and families than to competitive players. And most people that were into trading card games at the time wanted the competitive scene of Magic the Gathering, and if they wanted more of a family-friendly competitive vibe, they would go for Pokemon. So again, it was just the target audience was just, it was different. And like I said, it was new. It was too new. There wasn't a large, massive fan base to pull from to draw into the trading card game like there is now. And that's, again, a point we're going to revisit later in the video. But, with Harry Potter TCG not having that solid core audience, that Pokemon and Magic had, it just kind of overlapped the audience, which would have meant more people would have had to come from Magic and Pokemon to get into and sustain the Harry Potter TCG. And, it could have happened. It very well could have happened. The game was fun, but it was not likely to happen. Let me just say it that way. Or at least at that time. Maybe if, Pokemon had some moments where it kind of waned in popularity and had some issues, but they came back strong. And I believe Harry Potter could have done the exact same thing. My second really, really big point here for why it ended was that the licensing for the product was too expensive. Warner Brothers is notorious for really wanting to suck the money out of people and companies to license things, right? And I get it, they're a business. They got to make money, right? But the licensing, from what I gathered, was a little bit too high, and especially in relative cost to the profit that they were actually bringing in. Compared to Magic and Pokemon, which honestly had lower costs to them. Harry Potter was a little bit more expensive to run, and then, of course, not having as large of a fan base and not selling as much meant that the profits were diminished even further. So that was a really, really big piece of it too. The TCG was tied to the movie and book license. And then when the first set came out around the Sorcerer's Stone and Chamber of Secrets, Wizards did not continue licensing through the rest of the films. And that's kind of where it ended. So, on one hand, you've got Warner Brothers that wanted to do more film things. They wanted the likeness of the brand to be more based on the films. And then you also had Wizards of the Coast that needed a monetary incentive to stay in, which Warner Brothers just, if we're being honest with each other, they weren't giving them. They weren't really helping them out at all. So it makes sense in that way. The licensing agreements are expensive, and without strong sales, it wasn't worth continuing. So honestly, even from the Wizards of the Coast standpoint, it wasn't a good investment. And I say it like that again because just the fan base was not as large as it is today. Um, in the end, money talked loudest. There were fans of the game and plenty of collectors, but not enough to translate to big time sales that Wizards of the Coast was used to seeing from Pokemon and Magic. And it makes sense since they had to pay the licensing fees on every set as well, diminishing their returns. From a monetary business standpoint, it made sense for them to end it. Why put all these resources into a game that's just smaller in general and also not producing as much profit? And that's really like the big reasons why, right? There's obviously probably a lot more behind the scenes than we know. That's a good base for where it all stood. And a lot of people have this misconception, and it's part of the reason why I wanted to do this part of the video, is a lot of people had a misconception that the game was just, it wasn't worth going on. WotC understood that. Warner Brothers knew that it was dead in the water, so they pulled the plug. It's not really about any of that. It's about they introduced a concept too early. In my opinion, they introduced a concept that is fantastic a little bit too early. They should have let the fan base build up a little bit more, or spend more time building up the hype for the trading card game surrounding the movies before going into it. And honestly, it may have even made a little bit more sense from the marketing standpoint had they let the first movie go through and start getting into the second movie, then start the TCG off at the first movie. Because now you've already got like an established base. You know what's coming. You know what you're going for. And you have time for the fans to organically come together for the trading card game. So in my opinion, the bottom line here for all this is I think Wizards of the Coast took on the project thinking it was going to be a huge success. But I think it was just not marketed well enough. And also it was a little bit too early to really be doing what they did. Like they wanted it to be a competitor right out of the gates. They wanted it to be the next Magic, the next Pokemon, but they didn't put enough resources into it. They didn't let the fan base grow enough, and they pulled the plug too early. That's my other big issue with it is they gave it literally a year to maybe a year and a half before they pulled the plug. And if they pulled the plug at the year and a half mark, they were discussing and thinking about it way sooner than that. And, that's just a shame. All right, we're going to move on to point number 2, why they should bring the game back now. This is going to be juicy. This is my favorite part of all this because this is something I have been pushing for a while. All right, why they should bring back the game now. Because we want it. The end. Next point. No, I'm just kidding. We actually have some really good points here. The current trends for big branded IPs and trading cards are exploding right now. Pokemon and Magic are doing exceptionally well with demand for their games flying through the roof. And we've definitely seen this as the trend for the last few years. Pokemon in particular has just been booming since 2020. I mean, absolutely booming. Profits for Pokemon TCG seriously have to be at the peak they've ever been, the highest they've ever been. Newer games with similar IPs, when it comes to Disney with Lorcana, Star Wars Unlimited, or even One Piece, Bandai with One Piece, they have come onto the scene hot and fans have welcomed them with open arms. The market for every major trading card game has just trended upwards for the last few years, and the audience for them has grown exponentially. And we can literally see that. You can go to your local store, whether it be Walmart, Target, Meijer, Barnes & Noble, wherever. Sorry, international folks, I don't really know what stores you shop at that would sell trading card games. Maybe GameStop or was it in Canada? EB Games. That's what it used to be here in the U.S. The everything trading card wise is like gone off the shelves, right? It's strange because back in 2020, it was all the sports cards were flying off the shelf and people would get Pokemon or Magic as like their backup because they couldn't get anything else. And now it's like the complete inverse of that. Um, Trading card games cannot stay on the shelf longer than the minute they hit the shelf from the vendors. Like we literally have people stalking vendors from store to store just so they can get some Pokemon, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Digimon, whatever it is. Which is crazy because like I haven't heard anything about Digimon or the Dragon Ball TCG like ever, but they still sell out at all my local stores, which is nuts. And that's a huge reason. Now, I mean, like that's one of the biggest reasons up on the board for why this is the time for Warner Brothers to bring back the TCG. Like the market is hot. It probably will never be this hot again. And if it is, it's going to be a long time. So like this is the time. If you were going to dip your toes in it and get into it, start swimming with the big boys, this is the time. And we've seen that with Lorcana, Star Wars, like all these big IPs have started to bring their TCGs back into it and make these TCGs, and they're succeeding. That's the big thing. Compared to the early 2000s, the market, players, and collectors are at an all-time high, which greatly supports new TCGs getting into the mix. Again, look at Lorcana, Star Wars Unlimited, One Piece. All these games are new to the last couple of years. Massive, very competitive, selling out everywhere, right? The Harry Potter franchise is just as big and maybe even slightly bigger than these franchises globally. Now, mind you, globally, think about the Harry Potter franchise, the IP, the brand is globally recognized everywhere. And I would argue that the Harry Potter franchise, the IP, is just as popular around the globe as Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Disney. I mean, I know Disney now kind of owns Star Wars, but it's besides the point. Like they are up there in some of the top franchises around the globe. So like it makes sense for them. These other that you could literally look if I'm Warner Brothers, I'm looking over and I'm seeing all these companies making tons of money off their game. The popularity's flowing, just skyrocketing, going through the roof, going to the moon, whatever the kids these days say. I would be wanting a piece of that pie if I was Warner Brothers. I mean, money is the name of the game to them, right? I would be wanting a piece of that pie. The Harry Potter TCG or the franchise is just as big, and if Disney can do it with their broad array of brands, so can Warner Brothers and Harry Potter. I mean, let's be honest. Lorcana is bringing out some really like no-name Disney movies and bringing them to life through their game. I won't say no-name brands. I mean, it's Disney. Anything with the Disney brand is obviously going to be big, but it's like some of the most, I don't want to say unpopular either, because that's not really it. Some of the least popular brands for Disney are making their way into the Lorcana trading card game, and fans are just getting excited about it. Look, The Black Cauldron. Was that movie from the 60s? Sorry if I'm dating anybody here. It's making a comeback into the Lorcana trading card game, and fans are literally going nuts for it. 60 years ago, and they're going nuts for it. I'm just saying, Harry Potter has a lot more going for it than the Black Cauldron, and the Black Cauldron's about to be in a TCG. Just gonna put that out there. The demand for trading card games from a competitive and collectible side has created a golden opportunity for games coming in. And it's not just the big brand IPs. It's not just, the Disneys and the Star Wars and the Harry Potters of the world. I mean, literally look at the last couple of years for Kickstarter TCGs. One of the biggest ones, and we'll put an asterisk on that, MetaZoo TCG, right? Like this no name, no brand, like have nothing backing them. They're just a TCG that just came out of the blue and existed, took off, succeeded for a while. And again, asterisk up there. But it just kind of goes to show you, there's so many other trading card games. Look at Sorcery. Look at Altered. what's that? There's one other one. Grand Archive. Like all these games are succeeding in the trading card game space right now. Right? They've been out for a couple years. They're succeeding. They're at small levels too. That's the thing that's like they're in a lot of game stores. They're in a lot of hobby shops. They're being played in tournaments around the world. They are not big brands. Imagine what you could do with a massive brand like Harry Potter that is globally recognized. Everybody in this world knows what Harry Potter is. If you live in a place that has internet, TV, you know what Harry Potter is. Let's be honest. It's kind of like a no-brainer at this point to me to be like, yeah, TCG, that's just like free money at this point. I know there's a lot more that goes into it than that. Warner Brothers, don't leave yet. Continue watching. But there is a serious opportunity to make money here. Look at all the Kickstarter TCGs and all the new IPs that have been created over the last few years, and imagine what a game could do with branding, resources, and global reach like Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers has also been making a huge push over the last couple of years to get the steam going for the franchise once again, and it's been working. Hogwarts Legacy was a massive success, and a majority of the fans are hyped about the new TV series reboot. I understand that there's some that don't like some of the casting choices or the choice to reboot a live-action TV series. I am excited about it. I don't really care about who plays who, as long as it's book relevant. That's what I want. And honestly, I'm excited for this new TV series. And I think for the most part, a lot of Harry Potter fans are excited about the reboot. So you have some hype going for you. The problem is Hogwarts Legacy 2 is a couple years away, and the TV series is another year or two away. So you've got some time in between to start cooking up something good. You don't even have to release the trading card game in the next year, but you could start advertising for it. You could start putting promotional stuff out there. You could start doing some big hyped up things like Lorcana did when they were teasing their very first set. Again, we'll get to that in a minute, though. Keep the train going with more ways to expand the reach through trading card games. Again, there are so many people into collectibles and trading card games right now, in particular, that it seems like it's a really low-risk option. Now, everything has a risk, right? And, of course, it's going to take money to start this thing up. And there's this whole feeling of, well, we failed once already, we can't afford to fail again. You didn't fail the first time, you pulled the plug, and that's different. And because I mention this because I've seen a lot of people talk about it this way. The TCG, in my opinion, did not fail. After doing some research, I truly don't see it as a failure. They pulled the plug and they did it too early. That's really what it comes down to. Yes, it wasn't making as much money as Pokemon and Magic, like we did say, but there was still some success with it, and I think it could have succeeded had they given it more time and just tried to market it harder. I mean, just that could have been the big thing right there. But I don't see it as a failure, and I know Warner Brothers probably sees it that way, but it really truly wasn't. And again, if you were going to get into the space, which, let's be honest, they have tried doing very similar things. They've tried doing some different card games, not trading card games, but card games. They've done some board games. They've done tabletop things. Some of had success. Some of them did not. They even tried a couple years ago. They did a virtual digital trading card game with a story backed on it. And from what I know, it was super popular. I'm not really entirely sure why it stopped. It seemed like there was server issues or something going on. But they ultimately pulled the plug on that too. And again, it's like Warner Brothers has this thing for pulling the plug on things way too early. And look at Pokemon. Again, look at Pokemon. Started off strong, had a couple years of down periods where it was kind of is this a make or break moment? But they pulled through because they gave it time, they gave it resources, and they allowed it to grow. That's what Warner Brothers needs to do here. But the timing is perfect for it all right now. One of the biggest points I could say about getting the TCG back now is nostalgia. Do I really need to say more? I mean, let's be honest here. All the people who grew up with Harry Potter in the 90s and the early 2000s now have disposable incomes. And it's those people who are going to start collecting. They're the ones who are going to start collecting the Harry Potter trading card game and start playing. But they're the ones that are already collecting vintage Harry Potter items, things from back in the 90s and back in the early 2000s, because they want to touch a little dose of that nostalgia. That's what they're trying to get into. There's so many people. Like, if you just pull up eBay right now and filter for a day, you're going to see like hundreds of sold items for Harry Potter items because people want it. There's a large demand for it. And I think Warner Brothers just underestimates how good of a market this is for trading card games and how many people just want collectible things. I mean, look at I got a little Lego of Dumbledore down here. I've got this weird little Funko thing of a Thestral. I mean, I even have, look, I have the old original Game Boy Color Harry Potter game still wrapped, still sealed in here. Like, people are collecting Harry Potter things, and a trading card game would be up there. Look at the movie cards. The movies stop. Like, we haven't had a movie in over 10 years, and they're still making the movie cards, and people are buying them still to this day. I literally just bought a box of the new Kekawow Harry Potter cards because they're freaking cool. Right? Imagine if you had a trading card game, an actual game you could play with it. I'm just saying, they have what they need to get this going. They know it. Trading card collectibles have largely been influenced by people such as Logan Paul with the vintage Pokemon cards a couple of years ago. That also brought in a huge wave of people who discovered for the first time that Harry Potter had a TCG at one point. Now there are quite a lot of people who collect those cards, even knowing the game died long ago. That's a massive point. There are so many people that are out there buying booster packs, booster boxes, graded cards, literally grading cards. CGC is a newer grading card company within the last couple of years. Like, they're doing cards and they're grading them. That tells you right there is a demand for the collectible side, the trading card game side of things. Imagine how many people would get into the modern version of a game, especially if they revived the old one. But even if they just created a game, like just they start from scratch, brand new, you got a brand new series coming up, start brand new, start fresh, and make it competitive. Dude, so many people would be getting into it. I'm surprised it hasn't happened already, to be honest. There's just so many things going into it that could really make it possible. I mean, even going to my local card shop, there's so many people that go in there that love to just play new card games. They literally have a single day, a full day, dedicated to bring in your new TCGs, bring in whatever old TCGs, so you can sit down and play and teach people to play, and it's wildly successful because people want something different. They want something fresh. They don't necessarily want just Pokemon and Magic all the time. There's a lot of people that play Pokemon that go over to play Lorcana and go over to play Flesh and Blood and go over to play whatever these new Kickstarter games are. Like, there's tons of them. Imagine the flow of people competitively, strictly speaking, that would flow into this game. Lorcana had some huge success competitively from the get-go. Imagine what Harry Potter could do. And I think a lot of people kind of get lost on, well, you know, if that's, people are really interested in Disney and that's why they're playing Lorcana. A lot of these people that got into Lorcana were Magic players, Yu-Gi-Oh players, and Pokemon players. Like, we're talking upwards of 90% of the people who competitively played, who went on to the regional events and the world events, were players of other TCGs that wanted something fresh and they dove into something. And some of those people that are playing Lorcana, some of the ones that the little world champion of Lorcana is a Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic player. Like, he plays other games too. He's dabbled in Pokemon. He plays. I've seen him talk about some of these newer, like, indie games. They want, people hunger and thirst for trading card games. And I think a lot of people outside of the competitive TCG scene don't see that. They don't realize that. If Harry Potter were to come back right now, whether it's the original game or it's a revived new edition of the game, people would flood into it. Like, I promise that. I promise that. Reviving reviving the series with the new TV series provides a golden opportunity to once again tie it all back in from the very beginning. Hype for the brand is going to be very high, and marketing the TV series along with the announcement for the TCG would provide good synergy for both. So, kind of going back to the roots of, you had the Sorcerer's Stone come out last time, right? The Philosopher's Stone. And you had the Harry Potter TCG base set come out roughly the same time to coincide with the release. The revived TV show is still a year or two away. I think it's 2 years away at this point. I could be wrong. I think it's 2 years away at this point. They could start advertising for it now. And it would build so much hype. I'm serious. Like, look at what Lorcana did. And I keep going back to Lorcana because they're like the newest example and the biggest example of this trend. Lorcana announced that Disney announced that they were building a trading card game for all these Disney IPs well in advance of the actual drop of the first game. And the hype got so big. I mean, we're talking massive. So big that at Gen Con, what was it, 2023? I think it was 2023, Gen Con, when the first taste of the product, of their base set product, which is the first chapter, was being brought to Gen Con and there was only, I don't know how many boxes. Let's say there's only 500 booster boxes that were going to be available, and starter decks and whatever else. When they were bringing those to Gen Con, there were lines literally hours long just for the chance to get one. I was there. I was at Gen Con. I saw and witnessed those lines that went from the hall all the way down the hallway, which was massive, by the way, out the building, around the building, back into the building. Like, the line was so long, they didn't know how to control it. That's the reality. That's the truth of it. Anybody who was in Lorcana from the very beginning, comment below, because you know how hyped that game was. And you know what? For all their wrongdoings in what I think Ravensburger is doing wrong for the game is still succeeding, and it is still wildly popular. Just gonna say that. There's demand for it. There is serious demand for it. The games... They had to postpone some of their regional tournaments last year because there was so much demand for it. The tickets were selling out instantaneously online. They had to increase the size, the player capacity, and the bystander capacity for these events. I'm just saying, Harry Potter would easily do that. I'm telling you, Harry Potter would do that. If you haven't picked up what I'm putting down already, there's tons of money to be made in this hobby for Warner Brothers if they actually give the fans what they want and stick to the game. Key part right there, stick to the game. Don't give it 2 sets and then go, we're done. We're going to cancel the project. You need to have like a 3-year plan and go 3 years out, because 3 years is going to give you the real taste of what fans really want. And I think you're going to be surprised when people stick around for the game and how much money you could make from it, Warner Brothers. People want to sink their teeth into this game. They truly do. I mean, look, we literally have a revival community to make fan-made sets for a game that died 20 years ago, because people want it that much. I'm just saying. All right, let's get into point number 3. What I would do if I were Warner Brothers in making this game, and this one was kind of where I got a little bit of fun in this one. I got creative. I would look strategically at games like Lorcana and Star Wars Unlimited to see how they succeeded from the beginning. We just talked about Lorcana a little bit. Lots of hype, lots of marketing, promo cards for a few different things to collect and get a taste of the game. Maybe even do a special pre-release set like Lorcana did, where they allowed some special access. It wasn't really special access, but they allowed at Gen Con people to come in and buy booster boxes of the set to get some more publicity out there, to get YouTuber content, Twitch content, things of that nature. It's more free marketing for the game before it actually released. That's what they need to do. Lorcana had incredible success before the game even released due to their marketing and giving the fans a taste of what is to come. And again, that is what Harry Potter should do. They would massively succeed. The name of the game isn't necessarily competing with Pokemon and Magic, at least not right away. The current market, as we have discussed, is ripe with opportunity and bountiful, but that means Harry Potter TCG would need to stand out somehow. That could be solved with an official revival of the old card game going back to its roots of the vintage style art, the book style art. Now, I know that that's the least likely scenario to happen because, again, Warner Brothers wants to stick to what they're currently doing, and with this new reboot of the show, they'll probably want to make art around that. But they could easily make some like watercolor, cartoony characters, that maybe more resemble the new cast of the series versus, Daniel Radcliffe and the rest. They could even hype it up more if they wanted to do a modern art style that mimics the new TV series by making alternate art cards or new special rarities using some of the old book style art. That way it gives players and collectors the best of both worlds. And what I mean by that is if you look at Pokemon, if you look at Lorcana, if you look at Magic, all these big games, they have a bunch of different rarities to chase now. Bring back the Ghost Rare, right? So that would be, these like hologram, that's upside down. These hologram style Ghost Rares, right? Yu-Gi-Oh! Is doing these now too. They're making them very popular and bringing them back. Should be pretty easy to do. But then do alternate arts, right? So the TCG space has evolved over time. Back when Wizards of the Coast was maintaining this game and running it, literally just getting a holographic card was a big hit. You could get the Ghost Rare portrait things, or you could get a foil card, and that was it. Now fans crave all the different foilings and textures and the crazy stuff. But the good news is that's relatively easy and cheap to do for major companies like Harry Potter. But they don't have to dig very deep. You could literally do throwback or do like retro editions of cards, right? And just make them like the books and make them chase cards at that. You know how cool that would be to chase Harry the Seeker from that original print there as a new modern card? I'm just saying that's a golden idea. I mean, you guys can have your opinions if you want, if that's not what you think, but you're wrong. I'm just kidding. I'm very strongly opinionated. The next point is launch the game with the TV series. Or launch it a little bit after the TV series to allow people a chance to get back into it. Although I would argue the fan base is massive. It is well far and above where the fan base was originally when the original game and movies came out. So I think it would be best to still launch alongside the TV series. Keep doing baseline expansions with each new season that comes out. For example, the first series last a year, make it 2 to 3 sets, or even 4 if they want to do traditional sets in the year that are all based on the first book. So the first season of the TV series is supposed to be based on the first book, right? So you have 4 sets, 3 to 4 sets that come out within that year that are all based on the Philosopher's Stone. When the second season for Chamber of Secrets releases, have the next line of 3 to 4 sets be focused on that book. This makes the most sense since the TV series is supposed to be more book accurate anyway. That's what they're telling us. It's supposed to be more aligned with the book or books because it's more than one. But it shouldn't be that hard to keep it to the book standard, and also, it just would make more sense if you do book style because you're already trying to get actors and actresses that fit the book narrative. So just give us cards that fit the book narrative too. Find an established publisher to partner with. Disney went to Ravensburger for Lorcana, who is well known for their tabletop games. And then same with Asmodee and Fantasy Flight for Star Wars Unlimited. Both are very well known and established publishers of trading card games, board games, all that good stuff. Honestly, I think Warner Brothers would do fine to go to either of them. If they went to Ravensburger, you know that they succeeded massively with Lorcana. And I truly think they could do the same with Harry Potter. Will there be some competitiveness between Lorcana and Harry Potter? Absolutely. And Disney probably won't let Ravensburger do it anyway. They're probably under some contract that, hey, they could be the only game that they do. But like Fantasy Flight could easily take over. They're doing really well with the Star Wars Unlimited TCG. I don't play that game, but they could easily, they could get the rights to this type of format, this card, and just remake the game. But they could seriously make the game fun. And I hope they do. I hope they get it and they do make it. They don't need to do things in-house, just get an experienced publisher to help push the game. And if I'm Warner Brothers, probably not going back to Wizards of the Coast for a lot of different reasons that we mentioned at the beginning of the video. But someone else who has the means to eventually compete with them. If the deal is sweet enough with Wizards of the Coast, maybe you do go back to them. Maybe. I think you would just have to know that it's going to be competitive to Magic because that's really Wizards of the Coast only real game anymore. And, they're dumping literally all their resources into Magic. So I think it's unlikely that you go back to Wizards of the Coast. And I probably wouldn't recommend it. However, if it comes down to Wizards of the Coast or you're trying to do it in-house, probably stick with the experienced, established publisher is my gut saying there. And then the next point is you could just redesign the old Harry Potter TCG. And look, I love the TCG. I love the old TCG. I love the artwork, but it would probably be best for them to use it as guidelines for a brand new game, keep the core mechanics and abilities, but revamp the gameplay to better suit modern players. And one example of this could be introducing a dueling system similar to what Flesh and Blood uses. Now, this is something that I really thought long and hard on, and I actually think could really, really work. It's very different from what the Harry Potter game is right now. And I know that's going to rub some of the traditional Harry Potter fans the wrong way. I just want a new Harry Potter trading card game. I'm going to be honest. I would love it to be a revival of the old TCG. I just think that's less of a chance it's going to happen than just coming out with a modern game. But when I think about Harry Potter and thinking about duels and a trading card game, I think of actually dueling your opponent. So we use what Flesh and Blood uses, the attack chain, right? You play a spell card, your opponent counters with something else. You counter their card with something such as a mandrake or potion. So let's say you play a spell card, Expelliarmus, right? Because that's Harry's favorite spell. Your opponent counters with Stupefy or something, right? Like another spell. And each card mechanic does something differently and does something, whether it's the attacking or defending chain. And then you play a counter to that, which is like a potion or maybe another spell or a charm or something. That would make the game actually seem like a real wizard duel and keep competitive players who don't want to be a watered-down version of Magic, because that's what the OG one is traditionally known as. You would be keeping those competitive players happy. Lean into the Hogwarts houses in cups. This could be a massive one. One of the biggest appeals to Harry Potter is which house you belong to. Even people who aren't that into Harry Potter can identify or associate themselves within a certain house that they feel they would belong to. Um, I mean, we see this literally everywhere. A lot of the people I work with are not Harry Potter fans. Like, they're just not into Harry Potter like I am, and like a lot of us are. But they know what Harry Potter is. They know all four of the houses, and they know which one they associate with. I could literally walk up to probably a random person on the street, ask them, which Harry Potter house are you in? And they'll probably tell me which house they're in because it's that recognizable. It's that, like, that is a brand association they should be like driving for here. Use that to your advantage within the game. House themed items, house themed decks, even house themed competition. And a side note on that, a competitive league could have some kind of house point system for global or even just like local gameplay stuff. You compete to earn special rewards or maybe even have special cards for their house in future sets or promo cards, whatever. But give an incentive to the house. When you sign up at your local game store or let's look at Pokemon for example. If you want to play Pokemon competitively, you have to sign up through their site and register with Pokemon. You register your name and like a username, and you get like an ID number and all that. That's what you use when you go to local tournaments, or even if you wanted to go to like a regional tournament or something like that. That's how they give you whatever points you earn back to you and like associate it with you. So obviously, Harry Potter doing something competitive is going to have something like that to track points and be able to, like keep track of houses and things like that. So just when you sign up, make that one of the things. What house are you signing up for? I'm going to sign up for Ravenclaw. So anytime I go in and I get a win in a match, it's going to be a point for Ravenclaw. And you do this globally, or you do it locally, or you do it by country, whatever the case is, It's just a way to help immerse players and collectors into the game and push different aspects of competitiveness across the globe. And also, like I said, what better way to get casual people to dip their toes into the trading card game than something like identifying with their house? Then you benefit from the Quidditch Cup theme. Local leagues could be considered house cups. Regionals and nationals could have their own cup, like a regional cup or a national cup, leading up to the World Cup, which would be the championship. All this can be tied to the Harry Potter lore and history, and you could seriously spice this up big time with lore and just really making it seem, like Quidditch. How many people that are into the Harry Potter fandom wish Quidditch was real? Like, you could just hop on a broom and go play Quidditch. Well, this is your chance to get a somewhat taste of Quidditch. You can, go through these cups and progress and play for your favorite team, your house, like that type of stuff. You could easily lean into that and just succeed right there. One of the coolest aspects of games like Lorcana is their ability to drive a story. Harry Potter is a goldmine for something like this, especially if it follows alongside the TV series. It could be the classic storyline of what the books drive us towards, just the Harry Potter line, the actual plot line. Or maybe even a new plot that Warner Brother could create within the Harry Potter timeline to keep fans engaged and coming back for more. And I mean, it could be something as simple as, hey, you're a Harry Potter student, going to Hogwarts. At the same time, Harry Potter is going. All these events, the events of Philosopher's Stone is happening. Harry's doing all this stuff with Ron and Hermione. You got to help them out. You're one of these students in Hogwarts assisting Harry Potter and them in the background or whatever, do all these things. Hey, Chamber of Secrets. Harry and Ron and Hermione are having these adventures and, trying to figure out what's in the Chamber of Secrets. And you are a student there, again, just trying to assist. Like, you could easily come up with a plot to do your card sets in like just build and build and build, like Lorcana is doing, like Pokemon does, like Magic does. Think promos, merchandise, new sets, all kinds of hooks leading to the next clues for the continued story. You know, each set brings its own piece to the plot, but also leaves a couple open-ended questions for you to wonder what's next and what will the next set bring that you could do to help Harry in the game. You know, something like that. And then marketing. There are so many weapons here that Warner Brothers could use in their arsenal, if we're being honest here. As mentioned before, the use of nostalgia could be your advantage. So many people, especially collectors, are huge into vintage items or things from their childhood. That is the name of the collectible game right now, and Harry Potter could easily capitalize on it, especially in the trading card game world. Like, look, I'm making this easy for Warner Brothers to follow. Like, this is a very easy roadmap to follow, and I bet you, if Warner Brothers sticks to something like this, now mind you, this is something very basic. There would have to be a lot more in depth to go into it, but if they stuck with something like this, they would succeed. I'm telling you now. The collector and market hype, while the OG cards were fantastic and pulling a foil card from a pack was massive back then, it doesn't quite hit the same now, and I touched on that a little bit earlier. Introduce new rarities and foil types to really get collectors some huge hype coming into the game. Following the footsteps of Pokemon and even Lorcana, give the base rarities for the cards, but also give special foil treatment for higher rarities and chases. Not only will this easily allow players to get cards for decks, but allows collectors to chase certain cards as well. Keeps both sides of the coin happy. And it's exactly like that. You do a base set, so every card is obtainable to some degree for players to get. You still want to have some, common, uncommon, rare, ultra rare kind of stuff. So there are some chases for players too. But then you don't want to outprice your players, because the whole name of the game here should be the player base. It should be about the actual game. Well, I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. My good mic just died, so we are going to be doing this off my my recording device here. But they could easily introduce all these new types of rarities, new types of chases. Go for alternate arts. Go for, special illustrated cards. You could do, literally, if you're going to make a modern TCG, modern art, do retro throwback chases where you do something simple like this and put it on some foil with maybe some texture and say, hey, that's a retro foil card. People will chase that. They will dig it. They will go so hard for it. Promise you. And also bring back the Ghost Rares. I know I've already said that, but bring back the Ghost Rares and maybe something like the sketch cards, right? I think that's pretty cool. Something you could chase within the boxes are like artist signatures or something like that. Magic kind of does that with some illustrated art cards. Harry Potter could do something like that for their game as well. I think it would be really cool. And maybe something really unique to the game, like as a rarity type, you can make something like a Patronus rare. And I don't know, make just like Patronus cards. I don't know what kind of mechanic they would have, but you could literally just come up with something unique to the Harry Potter franchise and make it a rarity that people are really going to chase, and that's something only you can get in Harry Potter, the TCG. And then you want to market for all the major retail chains, which, let's be honest, Warner Brothers has an in with pretty much every major retail chain too. Plus, you could easily step into, Universal Studios, whatever, and sell it there like Disney does with Lorcana. And maybe even do online exclusives. You want to buy through or pre-order sets through like eBay, verified sellers, or like Warner Brothers could have their own shop on eBay and Amazon, and you do pre-orders through them. Maybe you get a special promo card with your order or something, Warner Brothers has been trying to market Harry Potter a lot towards a new generation of fans, not just the original fans, and this is a golden opportunity to do so. The trading card game or trading card games, especially at hobby stores, is often a family affair. And what better way to sneak into the family home life than something like a trading card game? Imagine you have a father or mother sitting down with their kids at their kitchen table, trying to teach them to play the new Harry Potter TCG. It happens a ton with Magic, Pokemon, and even Lorcana, so it would definitely happen for Harry Potter as well. And that's how you get your brand name to stick, especially with a newer generation. Something like this could truly, seriously stick with a new generation. If Warner Brothers follows this roadmap, they'd not only just revive the old TCG, but position it as a top-tier rival to Lorcana and Star Wars Unlimited, something they missed 20 years ago. So, I mean, truly, now I'm biased, and I may be missing a lot of things in this, but I think that this is a seriously good roadmap for them to follow and go down, because it's going to bring a lot of success. Now, I know I said 3 things. We went through our 3 things, but I'm going to give you guys a bonus 4th item here, because I'm really like wild and going hardcore headfirst into hoping this happens. And I did what the first set could look like. Wait, I got a couple pages here. So bear with me. Let's look into what the revival into the first set could look like. You would get marketing a year out or longer, some promo cards or other promotional materials into the market and hobby shops, advertise it along the TV series. And we're already advertising the TV series, so you would have to start relatively soon. When the series in TCG has its initial release, include these items. And these are pretty standard, run-of-the-mill stuff. Pre-constructed starter decks. You want to introduce 4 basic starter decks to get everyone going. One designed around each house to really get the fan base into it. And I think that's a golden idea right there. But I'm going to go a little bit further. I'm going to give you guys, Warner Brothers, a hint as to something you could do that I think would be a solid idea. Your Gryffindor starter deck could include Harry, Ron, or Hermione. Probably best to only use one of them. I wouldn't use all 3 because you don't really want to like put all 3 of your big money makers in the same deck. I would just stick with one. Maybe you do Harry just for the the nostalgia of it all, and just because he's the name of the franchise. And then let there be a search for the others within the actual set. But make it a fast-paced aggro deck with lots of spells. You want to think, Red Goblins from Magic the Gathering. Which actually brings me to a point, if we go back one set of points, you could literally... So in the original Harry Potter TCG, they had different archetypes like this. You could just bring this back and do it maybe like Commander style from Magic the Gathering and just go, hey, there's 5 different spell types. You got charms, potions, transfiguration, creatures. I don't remember what the other one is. And you can only build decks based on the certain colors or certain types of spells. Something like that. Anyway, getting back to the starters here, we have the Slytherin starter deck. Could be Draco or even Snape, maybe. Make it a basic control deck with resource manipulation. That feels like a very Slytherin thing to do. Ravenclaw starter deck here. Professor Flitwick should be the starter. There's just not a whole lot of Ravenclaws introduced in the books there, or even in the movies. So Professor Flitwick, I think, makes the most sense. And just make it a card draw, with unique card combos, things that, like Ravenclaws, we tend to be like the witty, lean towards learning. Make it kind of maybe the trickier deck to use. Have some high risk, high reward type of things where you need to have certain cards to make a combo. So there's a risk that you might not get all the necessary cards to do it, but the reward is if you get these cards, you have a nice combo that gives you the edge. And the thought I had is like if you bring back something from the old TCG, use the passwords. You can make like the password mechanic come back. And then the Hufflepuff starter deck could be Justin Finch Fletchley. This one could be used as a good healing creature deck, healing/creature deck. That just feels like a very Hufflepuff deck. basic ideas. Does not have to be that way, but, you know, these are all free, and I'm giving them to you, Warner Brothers, for the purpose. If you seriously, if you guys make a game and you follow any of these, I will probably die of happiness. All right. Then you want to have a basic 24 or 36 pack booster box. I mean, that's pretty standard. Have an art set of the booster pack artworks in the sets of 3s as a way to stay true to the OG game. So the OG sets had 3 different pack artworks in each set. Just go back to that. And, you know, for nostalgia purposes, you could even repurpose the old... I don't think I have a pack near me, actually. You just repurpose the old style of the packs just to kind of bring back that nostalgia feel, you know? You want to have collection boxes, or at least one, right? You want to make a small collection box similar to what Pokemon does with their Elite Trainer boxes, Magic the Gathering does for the bundles, and Lorcana does with the troves. Something that has 8 packs, roughly, a promo card, and then the deck box. You want it to be like some kind of deck box. That way people can get just started into the game. They have like a good entry point into like competitive play, more or less. They could even market it as 4 different boxes, 1 for each house, which I think is a really cool idea. If you're going to do it, I would do it that way. Have a Ravenclaw box, Gryffindor box, Slytherin box, and a Hufflepuff box. You will sell a ton more of these boxes that way. It's just easy money. Include things such as house-themed dice or sleeves, or you could do something like just unique items. Like I got this really cool Hogwarts professor bag from the OG era. Just like cool little things like this, people truly, truly do enjoy. Nerds like me enjoy that kind of stuff. Like we go for that all the time. I'm just saying. Then you want to have an organized play kit. So hobby shops should be given organized play kits to host monthly House Cup leagues and allow players a chance to earn cool promos and other merchandise. And this would greatly incentivize people to play the TCG. The promos could be some of the base set cards with just a special stamp like the OG games used to do. So think, Keeping Dobby Quiet. It literally just had a little gold stamp on it that said promo. Something simple like that is all you really need to do. Even large games like Pokemon and Lorcana do this. Simply giving a card a league stamp makes them collectible. And it really does. Like, especially with Pokemon, yeah, people go nuts for those Pokemon League stamped cards. Other merchandise to be used as prizing could be playmats for league winners, dice, sleeves, even special pins. Like, I mean, how many times do, kids especially want to get little pins, something like that? That could easily be a good incentive to get people to come and play. People love free things, right? Something like that pin is super cheap to make, and you can mass produce it for cents. And it makes sense to just, do them for free. All right, dad puns are done. Dad jokes are over. Sorry. Another cool aspect to the House Cup League could be when players sign up to play, they have to, like they do for other major games, they sign up to the house they want to be sorted in. And then once a quarter, whichever house has the most global points through the House Cup Leagues can get special promos or pins dedicated to their house. And then, for example, think of Ravenclaws winning the first quarter. The prize could be, for those who continue to participate in the House League Cups, to be given a special non-foil promo card of Professor Flitwick, presuming that's like what the starter deck's character is, with a Ravenclaw stamp on it. So it's nothing super flashy, nothing expensive, doesn't cost Warner Brothers a lot, but it's enough of an incentive to give players to play the game and help your house win. Make that card be a limited time card as well, so only those of the winning house can collect a promo card within 2 weeks at the hobby store they play in. All right, and that's just an idea from me, and there's probably a lot of holes and flaws with that. But just to keep, like if Ravenclaw wins the first quarter of the year, you don't want to just have an abundance of these cards and not pass them out or anything, or you don't want somebody to come into the game. Like as a player, I wouldn't want somebody, even if they sign up for my house, I wouldn't want them to come into the game and immediately be given some free stuff that they didn't earn, right? So if the Ravenclaw house wins, maybe it's the first week or two after they announce the winner. If you are signed up as Ravenclaw and you come into the game store, you get a prize. Like that promo card. And, if Wizards of the Coast really wants to limit it to just one per person, they could easily just put on, like, when you come in for your House League Cup to play, you sign in, they go, hey, I'm going to give you this promo, I'm going to mark it down in your profile that you received this promo for Q1 of 2026. And then that way, if people try to go to other stores and say, hey, I need my promo card, and they can look up and be like, oh, you've already got your promo card, we got to save some for others. That type of thing, So, and of course, you don't have to do any of that. But I think that's just a good way to kind of like facilitate that. And then why this works. It's an easy entry for casual Harry Potter fans, as they can grab a deck for their favorite house and maybe a few booster packs for a chance to pull cards for their house. And also, from the collectible standpoint, if you get like a little box that, has the Ravenclaw logo on it, and it's based on the Ravenclaws. Like, people, even if they're not into the trading card game, there's still a good probability they're going to buy it because it has their house on it, right? I buy stuff all the time for Harry Potter that has nothing to do with the trading card game, which is the biggest thing Harry Potter I collect, but I buy it because it's Ravenclaw. I mean, I'm just a big fan. So then why this works here, it offers a nice competitive roadmap. 3 or 4 set drops in a year with a tournament-ready ecosystem. And again, you want to have it like 3 years in advance. You want to kind of map it out that way. And then collectability is huge. With enough foil cards, alternate rarities, and house-themed items, there will be a broad range of items for fans to collect and fuel demand. That's the big thing, fuel the demand. And then, nostalgia plus a reboot to fuel the rest of it. Old fans with disposable income can now ruthlessly spend it in a market of collecting that is well supported and in demand. Competitive players will have a new game to master and a way to expand their knowledge of card games and new mechanics. New fans will also have something tangible to hold on to as the new TV series boots up, and they can use the TCG to follow along to their story. I think that's a huge piece that Warner Brothers traditionally just doesn't do. People want tangible merchandise to coincide with the TV series. They wanted it with the movies, hence why there were so many collectible cups and things like that would be given out at movie theaters. But like a trading card game is proven. It's time tested. This is a surefire way to get things into people's hands and get them more into the franchise and the series. And then if Warner Brothers launched this kind of plan with a strong publisher, it could easily rival Lorcana and Star Wars Unlimited immediately, which is the big thing they really want to do if they want to be competitive. So there you guys go. That is my very, very long plea and very detailed dive into the trading card game and why and how and it should and very well could come back to life. And then, if I were Warner Brothers, that's how I would do it. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. If anybody has stuck with it this far, thank you seriously so much. I put a lot of time and effort into this video, but I just really love to talk about Harry Potter and the trading card game space as well. So make your comments down below. Let me know what you think. I mean, you guys could very wildly disagree with me. Maybe some people agree with me. Who knows? You guys let me know down the comment section below. But also make sure to like the channel, subscribe, and share this video. This is a big piece. I would seriously love somebody from Warner Brothers to see this and even maybe respond to it, just like what their thoughts are. I'd be very happy to sit down with Warner Brothers and discuss a way we could bring the Harry Potter TCG back to life. But I am just going to, in the meantime, work myself into just pushing the narrative that the TCG needs to come back. So, thank you guys again for hanging out with me. That's all we have time for today. We'll see you guys in the next video.